Welcome to another Rolled in Reacts episode. This customer came in because their engine had started to run a bit rough, but that they followed the maintenance intervals stated in their owner's manual to a T. Customer states, installed a new air filter myself, but car now feels a bit sluggish. And this car came in with a leak after the customer had tried fixing it with some good old silicone and vice grips. This customer had made and installed their very own engine splash shield, but had to come in because of a noise at higher speeds. The owner of this car said that they hit some smaller road debris on their way to work and came in to have it checked out. And this customer said that they needed a new headlight, so they installed one they found at a local scrapyard, but had to come in a few days later because they didn't have any high beams. Customer states, it's gotten harder to put it in gear. Please advise. This car came in with some starting issues after the owner and his brother had installed a ground cable from the battery like this. Customer came in on a tow truck saying that they had raced their best friend at a stoplight but had heard a loud pop from the engine and then it suddenly stopped. And the owner of this car said recently had an oil change at another shop, but is it really supposed to smoke this much during cold starts? This car rolled in because it had started to overheat after the owner had done some wiring work on it, all by himself. This customer came in saying, my buddy did some work on the car 2 weeks ago, but ever since there's a clunking noise and sometimes I get a bit dizzy when driving longer distances. Customer states, steering wheel vibration when driving on the highway. Please advise. And this car came in because the brakes didn't always work after the owner's grandson had installed new calipers for them the month before. The owner of this car came in saying that they have always done their oil changes at the same quick lube shop, but ever since the last one, their car had started to run unevenly and came in to have it looked at. This car came in looking like this, after the owner had tried their best at getting rid of a family of squirrels that kept invading the engine bay. And this customer came in complaining about a clunking noise after they had some suspension work done at a local quick fix repair shop. The owner of this car came in complaining about a grinding noise when driving, and this is what the mechanic found. This car came in with a clunking noise after the customer had lifted the car in their very own creative way. And the owner of this truck said that they might have a coolant leak, because they constantly have to top it up with more coolant. This Ford Focus came in on a tow truck after the owner had put a new transmission in it a few nights before, but had somehow dropped a bolt in there which had caused quite the mess. Customer states, door handle gets a little bit hot sometimes. Please advise. This customer had their truck in for an inspection 3 weeks prior and said, don't worry about it, my buddy's a great welder. Turns out that the weld wasn't welding. This truck came in for an oil change when the mechanic noticed a beautiful custom paint job under the hood. Customer came in complaining about their car sounding hella bad and running a lot rougher than normal. And the owner of this car came in saying that their battery has a weird leak, but only when washing off the windshield. This guy had installed a custom sport exhaust on his Volkswagen by himself, but now had a pretty bad fuel leak. And this truck rolled in because the owner said he's not quite sure if it's time for an oil change just yet, because it's only been 45,000 miles since the last time. Customer states, did 120 on the highway the other day when they heard a loud clunk followed by a rattling sound. Wants to make sure it's nothing serious. Turned out that the customer needed a new engine, which was fortunately covered by his insurance company. The owner of this car had their boyfriend install a new battery for them, but the car now had intermittent starting issues. This Kia Sorento came in because the customer said it felt much slower than normal and had started to smoke a lot at cold starts. The customer later confessed to having tried to install a new head gasket together with his father and that it went a bit so-so. He also said that they might have mixed up the camshafts when reinstalling them. And this customer came in with starting issues after they had installed new spark plugs and new intake gaskets at a different shop. Turns out that the other shop had missed tightening the intake manifold and installed one of the gaskets in a pretty interesting way. Customer came in saying that they brushed against a curbside when trying to avoid hitting a mouse that was running across the road. And the owner of this Volkswagen rolled in saying, "No matter how much power steering fluid I put in this thing, it's never enough. Also, it's been overheating lately and I have no clue why." Turned out that the customer had topped up the coolant tank instead of the power steering tank and that they had a pretty bad coolant leak as a result. Uh-oh. The owner of this truck complained about it not accelerating as it should and that it had started to smoke more than normal. The mechanic found the turbo to be pretty well used. This car came in with a blown up transmission after the owner had towed it behind their RV but accidentally left it in first gear. Customer came in saying that their car has been feeling more like a canoe than a car lately and wanted it checked out. Customer states, "Clunking noises at highway speeds. Please check and advise." The owner of this truck said that his brakes have been squeaking a lot recently, and this is what the mechanics found. This car came in because it was really hard to steer after the owner had driven through a village in the mountains on a dirt road. And this customer came in with their Sierra Hybrid complaining about a rattling sound when driving and lots of warning lights in the dash after another shop had done some exhaust work on it the weekend before. And this car apparently makes its very own caramel latte. The owner of this car had the cheapest garage in town do some brake work on it but had to come in 3 days later because the brakes barely worked anymore. Customer states, "Installed new brake pads, but car still squeaks when I brake." This Mazda rolled in because the customer said it was really hard to get in gear after their friend had installed a new clutch for them 2 months ago. This guy had his father-in-law do some work on his truck's parking brake, but now said he kinda regrets it. And this car came in with a bit of a leak. The owner of this truck had some complaints about his brakes being very loud. Customer states, "Growling noises when driving on the highway." Yummy. And this customer came in because their car had started giving off a whining sound from the back, and they also had a steering wheel vibration at higher speeds. Customer came in saying that they always do their own maintenance and do it on time, but had to come in because they now had trouble stopping their car. And this car rolled in after the owner said, "My truck keeps squirting on random strangers on the sidewalk." The owner of this car came in saying that his wife had hit a curb going a bit faster than normal. This customer came in complaining about a clunking noise when turning after they had some suspension work done at another shop. And this Volkswagen Tiguan rolled in after the owner had installed a new engine control module, all by himself, but had apparently left a little something something in the turbo intake pipe. And when your car starts doing this, it probably just needs a diaper change. Customer states, "Horrible grinding sounds at all speeds. Please check and advise." Easy peasy. And this customer came in saying, "Did some suspension work together with my buddy the other weekend, but now the car feels like an older gentleman rocking a hula hoop on the back of a moving truck." And the owner of this truck said, "I thought it would go faster if I had to." This guy came in with his car because it had a terrible clunking noise after his nephew had done some suspension work for him for free. This car came in looking like this after the customer had let their grandson borrow it for a week while they were gone on vacation. Customer came in saying that they installed a used radiator that they got off eBay, all by themselves, but had to come in because the car now leaks more coolant than before. Customer states, "Hit a seagull on my way to the grocery store and now car feels different." A seagull, huh? And the owner of this car came in saying that he gets really itchy when driving longer distances and thought it might be something with the material in the seats. And I don't know what kind of voodoo spell this battery is under, but despite looking like this, it still works. And this is what happens if you're like this guy and do your own oil changes, but skip switching the oil filter. This Chevy Silverado 2500 came in with a pretty decent fuel leak after the customer had hit a piece of wood on the highway. Customer states, need a new spare tire, please advise. This customer had changed the transmission oil in their Snowcat's gearbox, but had forgot to put new oil in and came in because it now refused to move forward or backward. And this car came in with a bit of an oil leak. The owner of this truck had some differential work done at another shop, but had to come in because the shop apparently went a bit overboard with the differential oil. And this is eventually what happens when you have too little oil in your differential. Yikes. Looks great. Customer states, had it sitting at 7,000 RPMs for a while because I wanted to max it out on the highway, but then I heard a loud clunk and the engine shut itself off. And this customer came in for a tire rotation when the mechanic noticed the state of the brakes. When told about it, the customer apparently just said, "I knew you were trying to screw me over, I'm going to another shop next time." This car came in looking like this, after the owner had done some suspension work on it together with their brother and driven it like this for over a month before they eventually decided to come into the shop. This customer came in complaining about clunking sounds after they had replaced the lower control arms by themselves. Let's play a little game. Can you guess which of these tube seals are broken? The owner of this truck came in saying that they were in a rush to get home from work 2 days ago and think they hit a rabbit. Must have been B-rabbit. Nah, they got a couple more miles on them, no problem. The owner of this car had changed their oil 3 weeks ago at a quick lube shop, but had to come in because the engine had started making strange sounds. And this customer came in saying, brake pedal feels mushy, please advise. This Chrysler 200 rolled in because the owner complained about it idling really rough after they had changed the throttle body at another shop the week before. Customer states, installed brakes that were in fairly good condition from a scrap car, but now brakes barely work anymore. The owner of this Chevy Silverado 2500 came in saying, a buddy of mine changed the wheel bearings a while back, but now the truck feels different. Please advise. And this customer said that their tires were barely broken in. And let's just say that the gear oil was pretty sparkly in this one. This customer came in saying, I think I have a faulty wire somewhere, cause every time I turn the wipers on, my door locks go bananas. Customer states, heard a loud crunk sound from the engine, but kept driving it. Does not think it's the water pump because those should last the entire service life of the car. The owner of this truck came in complaining about their car making a funny sound at higher speeds after their son had borrowed it for a few days to go fishing with his friends. Uh-oh. This customer had just purchased this truck at a local auction for $8,800 and came in to make sure it looked alright underneath. And this guy had done some work on his truck and also apparently applied a couple of layers of undercoating before getting rid of any rust. The owner of this car rolled in saying they have a steering wheel vibration at higher speeds after they hit a small piece of scrap metal on their way to their day job. And this customer had done their own tire rotation, but had to come in because the car had started to feel a bit wobbly when driving. Customer states, yeah, I had a fuel leak for a while, but I fixed it myself 2 weeks ago and it lasted until yesterday. And the owner of this car came in saying, I always liked watching rally and wanted to try it myself the other day, but car has been overheating ever since. Please advise. And this car came in with a bit of a coolant leak. Yummy. Customer came in saying that a friend of theirs had helped them install some new belts, but that they now have pretty bad squeaky noises coming from the engine and their dash looks like a lit up Christmas tree. The owner of this Mercedes came in saying that it sounds like an electric drill when accelerating. Looks good. And if your engine block is made out of gold and your oil comes out looking like this, congratulations, you're rich! Customer states, my dipstick tends to get way too excited, please advise. The owner of this car had installed a new sound system by themselves, but had to come in because they get a bad cough when turning up the volume. And this is what happens when you don't clean your soft top every once in a while. That doesn't seem right. Customer states, car has had troubles moving for a while. Please check and advise. And the owner of this car came in saying that they could only move the seat backwards. This customer came in saying that their car has started to handle like a 95-year-old carrying a washing machine down a couple of stairs. And this guy came in saying that he slammed on the brakes to avoid hitting a garbage can. Looks like he slammed them pretty hard. This car came in after the owner complained about poor acceleration and a whining noise coming from the engine. Customer states, my son did his first oil change, but car has been running worse ever since. This Chevy Express rolled in like this after the owner's father had tried installing a new transmission in it. The mechanic found the transmission was holding on for dear life and that the transmission lines had been cut. And this Buick came in after the owner complained about it feeling kinda sluggish and that it had a hard time accelerating. The customer also said that the last oil change was only 56,000 miles ago and that he didn't think an oil change would do anything. And this car came in because it needed a new spare tire, but when the mechanic had the car in the shop, he discovered that the trunk was a little crowded. This customer had done some brake and suspension work on his car, all by himself, but had to come in because the brake pedal felt a bit spongy and he sometimes had a clunking noise when driving over bumps. The owner of this truck came in saying, my wife borrowed the car to go grocery shopping last week, but ever since the car has had this strange clunking sound. Could you check it out? And out of all things, this guy had decided to save on the paint job for his front spoiler. Customer states, did some engine work at another shop, but ever since, car idles at a higher RPM. Please check and advise. This car came in because it had a clunking sound after the owner had hit a pothole doing 60 miles an hour. And this truck had some of the best knock-knock jokes the mechanics had ever heard. The owner of this car had done some framework on it in a pretty interesting way. This pickup truck came in because the owner said it had started to feel a bit shaky after they had done some suspension work on it together with their brother 2 days before. This vehicle came in with quite the leak. Customer states, need a bigger ashtray. And the owner of this car rolled in asking for a tire rotation and an alignment, but didn't say anything about the brakes or what had happened to the front of the car. This customer asked the mechanic, but how do you know that I have a grinding noise? It ain't hard to tell, sir. And this customer came in saying that their steering wheel has been feeling loose ever since their friend borrowed it. This Kia Sportage came in looking like this after the owner said he hit a hedgehog on his way to work. Customer states, my window is acting a bit strange. And this mechanic said that he was feeling watched as he drove his car into the shop. This customer had successfully hydrolocked their engine after having driven through a shallow creek of water. And this customer said, "Car clunks hella bad, ever since wife borrowed it to get some groceries and hit a pothole on her way back home." This truck came in with starting issues after the customer had tried installing a new sound system using a YouTube tutorial. And this customer had installed a new sport exhaust by himself, but said that the brakes now felt mushier than usual and wanted it looked at. Customer came in saying that their car sounds like it's chewing rocks, ever since they had their uncle do some work on their cooling system the week before. And the owner of this Jeep said that his favorite show growing up was Pimp My Ride. Customer states, "Cab smells like pork chops, but only in the winter. Please advise." This car was in for an oil change when the mechanics discovered this. And this customer said that they had stepped on the brakes real hard to avoid hitting a deer that jumped out in front of them, but that the brakes had felt weird ever since. The owner of this car said he always does regular maintenance on it and that he does all his own work, but lately he's been hearing a strange noise and wanted it looked at. This customer came in saying that their car stereo screen has started to live its own life. And the owner of this car couldn't have come in any sooner to have the timing belt replaced. Customer states, "Rattling noise at idle after I hit an inflatable duck on the highway. Please advise." This car came in with the CV axle touching against the exhaust after the customer had installed a sport exhaust system together with his best friend. The owner of this car came in saying, "There's a rattle whenever I accelerate, and the oil pressure has been a bit high lately. Could you check and make sure it's nothing serious?" And this customer had painted their Mazda all by themselves. The owner of this truck said that he's been hearing a hissing sound since he topped up the coolant the week before. Turned out that the truck had gotten itself a new temporary owner. And this mechanic was just practicing his magic skills. Customer states, "Did an oil change at a quick lube shop, but car's been way too excited ever since." And the owner of this car came in saying, "My truck has started sounding like a middle school orchestra. Please advise." This customer had installed a lowering kit on their car, but had forgotten to tighten a couple of parts. Customer came in saying, "But ATF and brake fluid are basically the same thing, right?" And this guy didn't have the right parts to fix his suspension, so he improvised a bit. This car had apparently been sitting in a barn for 6 months and came in because the owner had a grinding noise when turning. Customer states, "Gently brushed against a curbside when trying to avoid hitting some road debris. Please check and advise." And the owner of this car didn't know he had a portable jacuzzi in the back. This car somehow managed to roll in like this after the owner had raced his friend at a stoplight and heard a loud crunk sound and wanted to make sure everything looked alright. The owner of this car had installed some engine mounts at another shop, but had to come in because he said his hood gets a bulge when accelerating. Customer states, "There's a little bit of noise when driving on the highway. Please check and advise." And here's a great example of how much car engineers love car mechanics. Original! The owner of this car said that he was out driving in the middle of nowhere when he suddenly lost all steering. Luckily, a local gas station was nearby and the owner did a little quick fix to help the customer get to the closest garage. This Ford minivan came in because the owner said that they had a thumping and rattling sound when driving at higher speeds, ever since they had a quick fix repair shop do some work on their rear axle. Customer states, "Did an oil change themselves, but didn't want to put too much oil in it in case it would be bad for the engine." This Range Rover rolled in because the steering had started to feel strange after the customer's neighbor had done some suspension work for them for free. Customer states, installed my own car anti-theft system. And the owner of this truck had it in because they finally decided it was time for new brakes. I couldn't agree more. This customer came in saying that she had hit a pothole that looked smaller than it was while on her way to work. And this engine had some pretty expensive issues. Customer came in complaining about the car feeling really shaky when driving over 80 miles an hour. And the owner of this vehicle came in saying it has started humming and rattling a lot at higher speeds after their father-in-law had replaced the wheel bearings and done some brake work on it. Seems like a perfectly acceptable amount of play. Customer states, brakes feel like a memory foam pillow. This truck came in for a pre-purchase inspection when the mechanic found that the current owner had created his own plastic mold to hide some surface rust. And this Hyundai Elantra rolled in because the customer said he thinks there's something off with his brakes. Turns out that the rear brakes had gone on a permanent vacation and forgot to tell the customer anything about it. Customer states, hit some tumbleweed that appeared out of nowhere while on my way back home from a vacation trip. Please advise. And this customer had their younger brother fix their exhaust for them, but had to come in because they now had a rattling sound and couldn't figure out what it was. And the owner of this car had tried installing new brakes by himself, but couldn't for the life of him figure it out and had to come in on a tow truck. This customer came in and said, a nephew of mine who's a fine electrician did some work on the truck the other day, but now it idles a bit rough. Could you check it out? And when your car starts making its own caramel lattes, you know you're in trouble. Customer states, car keeps overheating even after I tried fixing it with some stop leak. This car came in for a tire rotation, but in some magical way, the customer hadn't noticed that their brakes were this bad and had just kept driving it as normal. And this customer came in saying, was rushing to get to work this morning and drove through a shallow puddle of water when I heard a loud bang from the back. This car came in because the owner said that he thinks his steering might have gone wireless on him while the car had been sitting on his front yard for a few months. And the owner of this pickup truck said that he couldn't figure out how to open his tailgate and wanted it looked at. This customer had apparently let their cousin balance their wheels for them a few months ago, but now said that they have a slight vibration when driving on the freeway. Customer states, smells like a butt on a hot stove when accelerating. Please advise. The owner of this car came in saying, wheels need balancing and there's a little splinter stuck underneath the car. Please check and advise. This car came in with quite the coolant leak after the customer had tried fixing it with some silicone, wooden sticks, and bungee ropes. And this car came in because the owner wanted their cloth seats converted into leather but forgot to mention anything about half their living room being in their car. Customer states, just had the exhaust fixed at another shop, but whenever I accelerate, I keep getting this knocking sound. This truck came in after the owner said it was really hard to start and had started to backfire ever since they installed a new timing belt, all by themselves. And this car had apparently started to make its very own dark chocolate after the owner hadn't changed the oil in 65,000 miles. The owner of this truck had it in because they get a clunking sound anytime they slam the brakes and couldn't figure out what it was. And this customer came in saying, there's a bit of a draft in the cab, but only when braking. Please advise. This truck came in for an oil and filter change, but when having it on the lift, the mechanics noticed the state of the undercarriage. When told about it, the owner apparently just replied, well, that just means I've got plenty of room for secret cookie stashes. Customer states, squeaky sounds coming from brakes. The owner of this car had been towing it behind their RV and had forgotten to disengage the handbrake, and this is what that ended up looking like. And if someone ever tells you that your DIY car fixes look hella stupid, but they actually work, they're not stupid. This customer had replaced his water pump together with a buddy, but they had apparently not installed the gasket properly and had to come in because the car had started to overheat and leak coolant all over the place. The owner of this car had a coolant leak fixed at another shop, and this is what the mechanics found once they took a closer look. This car had some belts replaced by the customer's father-in-law, who's apparently great with cars, but came into the shop 4 days later because of a whining noise. And this customer came in complaining about a wobbly steering wheel after they had some wheel work done at a quick fix repair shop. Customer states, gas tank keeps refilling and emptying itself. Please advise. This car rolled in because it had quite the oil leak after the customer had tried fixing it himself in a pretty creative way. And this guy had changed his own belts, but had to come in 4 days later because the car now had starting issues. This truck came in for a pre-purchase inspection, and thank God for that, because the current owner had apparently told the buyer that the truck was as good as new underneath. And this vehicle had a bit of a leaking problem. Customer came in saying they have an awful noise from the front ever since they let their son borrow the car the weekend before. And this customer came in saying was doing 120 on the highway the other day and heard a little noise and sort of felt something move beneath my feet. Can you check to make sure it's nothing serious? Uh-oh. This customer came in complaining about their car not wanting to go forwards or backwards despite being in gear. This car came in because the owner said it had started to clunk a lot more than normal after they had some suspension work done at a different shop the week before. Customer states, hit a hedgehog with extra long spikes and car won't start since. Please advise. This car came in for an alignment, but the customer had no complaints whatsoever about the brakes. And this car had a pretty interesting remote starter system. The owner of this car said that their brother had installed wheel bearings from a local scrapyard 2 weeks ago, but had to come in because they had a terrible noise and vibration when driving. This Ford F350 rolled in because it had started to run pretty rough according to the owner, and it turned out that it last had an oil change 48,000 miles ago. Sparky Sparky. Okay, let's play a little game. Which one of these are bad? This Peugeot 306 rolled in because the owner said it accelerates as fast as a 96-year-old getting up from a chair, and that it also makes its own pizza dough. This car had to come back to the same shop a week later after the customer didn't want to listen to the mechanic yapping about the state of their suspension. Cozy. This guy had tried fixing a hole in his tire by creating more holes in it and sealing it with some duct tape. Great work. Customer states, drove past a construction site and took a little souvenir with me. Fast and Furious! This guy had borrowed his buddy's garage for the weekend but had some issues with the lift. Customer states, car sounds different. This vehicle came in for its yearly inspection, and this is what the technicians found. When the mechanic told the customer that they might want to replace their ball joints, they apparently just replied, "Thanks, but I know you're just trying to rip me off." And this quad bike came in because it had troubles firing up, and this is what the air filter looked like. This car came in because it wouldn't start after it had been sitting outside in the rain with open windows for about a week. Customerstates took the car off-road for the first time, but afterwards it wouldn't move forward or backwards anymore. And this car came in after the customer finally decided that it was time for new brakes. The owner of this car came in because they said they get a vibration when braking, ever since their grandson installed some new calipers for them. This car came in because the owner said it had issues starting and the mechanics made a pretty chilling discovery. Customer came in saying they hit a smaller bump in the road and have had a clunking sound ever since. Customerstates was revving it after an oil change, but then heard a loud crack and engine stopped. Turned out that the customer had forgot to refill the engine with oil after the oil change. And the owner of this SUV came in because they still had an exhaust leak even after fixing it themselves. And this customer had fixed a leaking tire, but had to come in because it was now leaking more than before. Customer states, suspension was clunky, but fixed it himself. Wants to make sure everything looks alright. This car came in like this after the owner said he apparently hit a giant tortoise while on his way home from his summer vacation in Florida. And this customer came in saying that he had a clunking noise for a while and had fixed it himself, but that it occasionally comes back and wanted the mechanics to have a look. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and until next time.